think you're untouchable.
Word life. This is basic thugonomics. This is basic thugonomics. Word life. I'm untouchable, but I'm forcing you to feel me. Word life. This is basic thugonomics. Word life.
Man, that Thugonomics theme intro is growing on me a little bit, guys. I got to be honest. Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and a happy Wednesday to our Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is doing well out there. And guys, we are 1 week and 1 day away from the 2025 NFL Draft. I know some of us, and I'll raise my hand, myself included, some of us just can't wait for it to be over at this point. But we're having a lot of fun breaking it down. I am Bob Rose. I'm one of your co-hosts to your Bayou Blitz. Joining me at the bottom of your screen is my other co-host, Brendan Boylan. And on the other side of the screen is Saints Hall of Famer, Tyrone Hughes. Gentlemen, I hope you're doing well this evening.
I'm doing okay. I'm just kind of suffering with a little, I think, a respiratory problem. Got a real bad cough going on right now. So excuse me doing the show if I kind of get muted for whenever I have to cough. I try not to do it while I'm on.
You know what, man? That's all right. Brendan and I have allergy problems, half the year it seems, and we're hacking and sneezing away on some of these things. So, yeah, we're all protected. We could share germs virtually.
Yeah,
That's fine.
About a few years ago. We're all well to share germs nowadays. But Bob, you and Tyrone, you guys were off soaking up the sun together, along with a ton of other people on the Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. So I wanted to kind of open the floor to the two of you to talk about those experiences. Maybe promote it a little bit. I know we got dates already for next year. So, gentlemen, go ahead, take the floor, and let us know some of the things you really enjoyed about it. And two, I got to know who actually won putt-putt.
Oh, Lord. Well, I think it was Pierre. Pierre Thomas came this year. You know, typically it's been Mike, Courtney Roby, Lance Moore, who else? Delvin Bro, myself, and Lance couldn't make it, so Pierre Thomas ended up coming. I think he had a good time. We enjoyed it, but his group ended up winning. But we had some, and Bob was taking the score, so I think we had some issues with his calculations on how he was scoring the putt compared to how everybody else was scoring. So I think that one's still kind of up for debate on whether they really won or not. But Bob was the one calculating or scoring, and he did determine them to be the winner. So hey, you gotta accept it. But the cruise itself,
How much money did Pierre slip you, Bob? Like, let's be honest. Let's be an open honest. How much did Pierre slip you under the table to make sure they won?
Man, he did not. He did not. And like I said to you at the time, Tyrone, I was out in the sun a lot that day. So that could have affected my mental thinking. But I'll tell you where the calculations went wrong. Courtney Roby should be the one most upset because he got stuck with myself, my wife Lauren, and Will on his team. So I'm afraid that we anchored him down a little bit, although I am proud to say I did get 3 holes in ones. But hey, I'm calculating these scores, and I'm looking at, and I'm going to throw Delvin and Mike under the bus specifically because I'm looking at the scores of their teams, and I'm like, it looks like that we have 3 reincarnations of a Tiger Woods in their prime. We're getting, between the 4 of us, on Courtney's team, we're getting on average 9-10 strokes a hole. I mean, okay. You guys some of you guys are coming in with 5 strokes per hole. No. And I didn't fudge the numbers, but if anybody's got a gripe, it's poor Courtney because he and his team finished in last place.
Well, and I can tell you, it's I think they were trying to make sure that I didn't, because we won it 2 years in a row. So they wanted to make sure I wasn't going. It wasn't going to be a third. Me and Ulan and his wife. We've been winning that. We won it 2 years in a row. You even saw our shirt. So but no, it was a good it's a good event. The cruise itself is for a good cause. The charity Shireen has is Get Checked or Check Out. And she's been doing a lot within the community and making sure um people are actually going to the doctor and basically just getting checked, and that's the whole purpose of it. And so every year it's kind of getting bigger and bigger. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's a nice time. It's a 5-day cruise. We go to Cozumel. This was my, I want to say, fourth or fifth year, and they've been doing, I want to say, maybe 13 or 14 years. And it's the same cruise. And so I know they've been talking about one doing a land based trip,
Hmm.
possibly to, I think it was Dominican Republic or Jamaica, and then of course next year, we coming back doing the same cruise. So they're trying to add some land based trips to it as well. So for anybody out there listening, check it out. It's the Black and Gold Celebrity Fan Cruise, and sponsored by Get Check or Check Out Foundation.
Yeah, and we are. Brendan and I talk with Shireen, and the Bayou Blitz, yeah, and us at Athlon Sports are going to continue to promote Get Checked or Check Out all year round. Now, I mean, we picked up promoting you guys. I think it was in November, this past year, once the cruise dates were officially announced. But Get Checked or Check Out is going to promote a different health awareness issue every single month. And we're going to continue to promote that once we get our logo, the Bayou Blitz logo, cleaned up. The Get Checked or Check Out site is going to be at the bottom. And Shireen has just been so great, and co-founding this foundation. And I know, Tyrone, you're particularly close with her. She and her team, they work their rear ends off, not only for the cause, but to put this cruise together. And this was my first time on it, my first cruise of any kind whatsoever. And I won't lie to you. My wife Lauren and I, we get a little bit anxious when things get hectic around us. But once we got onto the boat and started meeting up with you guys, it felt like we were right at home. I mean, hell, and the meet and greet. Shireen shocked the heck out of me when she brought me up and introduced me just before she introduced all you guys. And by that point, you and I had spotted each other and exchanged hugs. And Delvin comes bounding over and wraps Lauren and Will up in big old hugs. And the thing, fans, that sets this event apart from a lot of events that involve Saints players, be it former or current, is that Tyrone, Delvin, Mike, Pierre, Courtney, all these guys, Mike, all these guys, you weren't just available for certain portions. Okay, there's going to be autographs from this time to this time, Q&A from this time to this time. No, you guys were intermixed with us during the entire event. It was an absolute. I mean, you and I have known each other for a couple years now on a text and camera basis, but it was so cool to actually get to know you. For those days of the cruise, and like I said, intermixed the whole time. We're eating together, we're drinking together, we're hitting the beach together, and I think that's what sets this event apart from every other Saints event that I'm aware of.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, and I think that's one of the things when um that Serena, we always talk about her picking the right guys to come on that cruise, because I mean a lot of the players, I ain't gonna say a lot of them, some players, don't want to do all of that mixing and mingling on a
Hmm.
consistent basis, and so and that's they're just trying to have a good time for themselves, but you have to understand why you're there,
Yeah.
and that why they have you come on. And so it's more for the fans, and so that's how we try to approach it, and make sure we're interacting, and more so than anything, it's all about trying to make sure that you guys having a good time, because we want you guys to go back out and bring your family and some more family and friends for the next year.
Well, I think you were highly successful in doing that. My son Will, he doesn't know very much about football, but he thought it was the coolest thing in the world. He goes, "We're friends. We're friends with football players." And I gave him, I got your autograph picture behind me, but I gave him the autograph pictures that all you guys signed for him into school, because none of his school friends believed him. So I'm like, okay, well, here, we'll print out a couple pictures. Him and Delvin, him and you guys together, and then the autograph pictures, and I allowed him to take those into school. Now he's a rock star. So I mean, it's those kind of things, and we're all the way up in Pittsburgh. You
Oh,
guys, you
bad
guys have a
country.
cult. I know, but I mean, you guys have a cult following
That's a
down in the
different
Gulf
black and
Coast
gold.
area. That I always tell people, I'm like, you guys don't know black and gold. That's black and yellow. Black and gold is the Saints. But I mean, he's a rock star now. He had his little friends, the ones that had cell phones or their tablets at school. They pulled up like your highlights and the highlights of all the rest of the players, and then they were like to Will, I can't believe you know him. And like I said, Will was a rock star for a couple of days. But it's just that kind of getting to know you guys. I won't tell you who Will's favorite was. You were Lauren's favorite. He just, he
Oh,
thought
thank you.
she thought you were the most entertaining in the world. But I mean, it's that kind of interaction that you guys had with us. And like I said, a lot of the fans that go on this cruise, they were coming up to me during it and saying, we're big fans of the show, the Bayou Blitz, that they were. Heck, you were like my unofficial agent advertising for us all day, all week. Listen to this, this show. These guys do good work. But I mean, it wasn't all about, nobody there was star-studded either. You could tell that these guys knew each other, that all your families knew each other. And like I said, you made us feel right at home from the instant we stepped onto the boat.
Great. Like I said, we had a good time, and that's our objective, is to make sure that the fans do, and they do have that interaction. And one thing that Shireen does is has a lot. It's not a long trip, like we just did that 7 day, but it's interactive. With the fans on most of the stuff that we do, but we still have our alone time. As players, so that's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing as well.
Talk to us about, before we get into draft stuff, talk to us about, some of the health awareness things, the Get Checked or Check Out, does that really attracted you to the cause.
Well, I mean, I think the main thing was just the fact that when they started it, it was her and her husband, and of
Mm-hmm.
course he passed away. Like I said, that's when I started coming in towards the end of it. But it mainly focuses on just people bringing awareness, not just awareness to people, but basically getting out to people to make sure that they're out there getting checked, um, going to the doctor, trying to find out, getting blood tests, getting physicals, because I always say one of the craziest things, especially as and I've said this before, especially as men, it's not white, black, Asian, whatever, but just men in general, is we feel if we don't know, then nothing's wrong, and that's the craziest thing. That's far from the truth, because we need to know, and you see a lot of, whether it's guys, I mean, regular people or players, athletes, entertainers, what have you. We always need to know what's going on with our bodies, because we never know what's going on, and it could be something real serious. And at the end, it's too late, by the time we do find out. So I think that's the one thing that her foundation really preaches, is making sure you get checked, or you're gonna check out.
Yeah, and the other thing that really attracts me to the foundation too is, if you are unfortunate enough to get a diagnosis that is scary, you and your loved ones, your family, they don't necessarily know where to turn next. Because a lot of these doctors and people in the medical field, they're just they're there for the diagnosis and the treatment,
Exactly.
but they're not there for the other things, the behind the
The
scenes.
support.
Exactly, and that get checked or check out helps families along with that too. Provides the resources that they wouldn't otherwise have or even know where to turn. Because I know and we all think of it. We've all had loved ones come down with different illnesses, that unfortunately may have taken their lives. And if it's something a deteriorating condition, we don't know where to turn. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to think. We don't know how to feel. And get checked or check out helps with that as well.
Yes, yes. So I mean, I think it's been good. It's been great. Let me say that it's been great. Like I said, she does a lot within the community, and that cruise is really truly her main source of funding or helping out with raising money. So I think that's something. Like I said, we just kind of try to help promote it as much as possible, but then making sure the fans have a great time with us so that they can bring back some more.
Well, and now our next mission, Tyrone, is to get young Brendan there and his wife on the cruise next year.
Uh
Because you got lifers with me, Lauren, and Will. Now we just got to rope Brendan into it.
Hey, we're going to be able to make it happen. I'm confident, super confident this upcoming year we're going to be able to make plenty of time to work out the logistics of it. And thankfully, the full-time job, I'm not traveling nearly as much as I used to. So it looks like the stars, at least for now, are aligning for me to be on that cruise next year. The stars also may be aligning for the New Orleans Saints to have a new quarterback
oh.
next year.
That's a good segue.
It is nicely done.
So let's talk about that, right, Bob? This is our first show. We recorded a little something over the weekend, so we knew of the news, but this is our first live show since the Derek Carr news broke, and there's been a lot. It's been helter-skelter over the last few days in terms of reports, this and that, whether it be about Derek Carr, quarterback prospects, Spencer Rattler. We're the problem, Bob. Remember, 3 weeks ago, we promised, and we did an entire show without naming quarterback. And ever since that show, I feel like all of our shows have been nothing but quarterbacks. We're going to make sure to spotlight some other positions in the draft today, especially with Tyrone here. But let's start there, guys.
But everybody wants to always know about the quarterbacks.
Yes, sir.
That's the position. That's the position. Well, and Saints fans have been spoiled, and were spoiled for 15 years because they didn't have to worry about that position for 15 years. It's always Drew. So until they kind of find that next franchise guy, it's always going to be the hottest topic every offseason. But the news comes out Friday about Derek Carr's shoulder injury. Will clarify the reports also said that the Saints were aware of it, and they've been communicating with Carr throughout the process. So this isn't like a surprise splash report to anybody. It was just a surprise report to most of the media and fans that were not aware of the situation going on. There's been a lot of speculation in the last few days. But, Bob, what was your initial reaction to that news that Derek Carr could miss all of next season with a shoulder injury?
It was surprise, obviously, because, like you said, we knew fairly quickly that the team was aware of it even before they restructured the contract. But you're still surprised of the timing, 2 weeks before the draft. And right along with surprise was, disappointment and a little bit of anger too. And I say it I say that because, it almost now feels like the Saints are forced to draft a quarterback, if not with their first round choice, then certainly in the second round. And as a football team, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Tyrone, as a football team, you hate when your hand is tipped like that. You hate when you're showing, when you drop your cards in poker and everybody sees what you got holding. You want to have options going into the draft. Maybe you did want to select a quarterback even before Carr's injury news. But whether you did or you didn't, now it feels like you're forced, unless you feel like Spencer Rattler, the 5th round choice that your current head coach had no say so in drafting, unless you feel like he's the the guy. And maybe he turns out to be, certainly, hopefully so. But you still got to feel like the Saints are almost backed into a corner and have to draft a quarterback with an early round choice.
Well, this has been an issue since Drew left.
Mm-hmm.
And an issue that the Saints never addressed. Where when Drew was there, they should have had someone younger and studying behind him, waiting to replace him. They never did that. And just as we talked about earlier, they've held on to these veterans for so long to now you have cap issues to where the Saints over the last few years, I don't know why, uh have had injury problems. But with those injury problems, they haven't had capable backups because they haven't been able to pay the guys to come in to be capable
Mm-hmm.
that are quality backups. And so everybody's like, "Oh well, injuries happens to everybody." And I tell people, I said, injuries is not an excuse; it's a fact. And the fact is that with those injuries, it does hurt your team, and other teams are able to overcome those injuries because they have capable backups. I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, when they played the Giants backups, if you can remember, that starting defensive front four looked like the starters
Yeah.
when they played the Saints. I mean, they literally, like, you wouldn't know that they were all four of them were backups. But you don't have that with the Saints, whether it's the offensive line or the defensive line. And I think the one thing that the Saints should have done years ago, which I've said, and I know people get mad about when I said, was start making trades with some of these veteran guys, because again, it is a business. And start making the trades with some of these veteran guys so that you can get something for them. When I say get rid of a Cam Jordan, a Demario Davis, a Alvin Kamara, I'm not saying that they can't play anymore. I'm saying they can play. And that's why you need to get rid of them so you can start to rebuild or bring in quality guys or get enough draft picks because of them being traded that you're going to get something for them. Now you're not. And then you keep redoing their contracts or restructuring their contracts. And now you're stuck. You're over the cap. You have older guys that I don't think are going to be able to produce this year, and then you're struggling with the rest of the team because you've had so many injuries. You need two guards. I think Fuaga,
Mm-hmm.
McCoy, Penning is your three linemen to start. But you got to put two guards in between them to protect whomever your quarterback is going to be. And that's something that the Saints have to look at. They need at least two starting receivers. They need another running back. On the defensive side, you're going to definitely need two corners and possibly even two safeties. I know they brought one in from the guy who's from here, I think from Kansas City, but
Mm-hmm.
you still, again, we're talking about capable backups. Do you have the money or will they have the money to do that? And it's not going to happen within 1 year, but that's why it's called rebuilding. And the fans have to understand, if you're going, which the Saints haven't been doing, but it seems like they're just kind of piecing it together. But rebuilding means it's going to take you another 4 to 5 years to basically get back to where you want to be, and you're going to have some struggles along the way.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a little bit ironic, I think, that you put it that way, and I don't disagree with you. I mean, as much as I love Cam, Demario, Alvin, it would have made good business sense, like you said, once you figured out that championship window has closed, which basically happened as soon as Drew said, "I'm not going to play anymore."
Exactly.
Then you should have had the business sense to maybe move on from these guys. But the reason I called it ironic is when you joined the Saints, as a rookie in, what was it, 1993, the Dome Patrol was starting to fritter out. The team itself was starting to get older, and Jim Mora was obviously your coach at the time. And it was a slightly different day and age, without the age of free agency, but trades were still made. Ricky Jackson left the building. Saints didn't get anything for him. Same with Sam Mills. Same with Vaughn Johnson. Now, I mean, they did get what turned out to be Willie Rofe with the trading of Pat Swilling. But my point is, you had a championship caliber team that got older, and you didn't necessarily get anything back for the pieces that were getting older. Is that kind? Do you draw a parallel between your Saints team and this Saints team?
I mean, and that's basically what you're looking at, yeah. Because you have quality guys. They are older. You want to try to hold on to them just because they've been so good. But on the business side, which we are, again, we understand, you got to make moves that's going to benefit the organization, because that's basically, we already know that's all they typically, that's what they think about. Now
Mm-hmm.
you can say Mickey Loomis has tried to hold on to some of these guys being loyal, which is great, but it's not good business sense. And yet the fans, they don't look at it that way. They just know, hey, we losing, because
Mm-hmm.
that's all the fans concerned about is the wins and losses. And so once they start losing, the first two games with Dennis Allen last year and the team last year, everybody's talking about the Super Bowl, because the way they played and the way the offense was executing. And I had said before the season even started, if one of those offensive linemen goes down, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah,
And
you
it just
did.
so happens the third game, the main one went down, which was McCoy. And then we were downhill ever since that. And then they finally got rid of Dennis, which none of us thought they were going to fire Dennis, which in actuality, Mickey and them didn't fire. It was Miss Benson, which was a
Mm-hmm.
surprise. I think everybody was the fact that she came in and stepped in and did that firing. But then when what was the special teams coach?
Rizzy.
Rizzy jumps in there, and everybody like, oh, he's the rah rah guy, and he's the reason that the guys are up and doing better. And you saw a couple. I think they had maybe one or two wins, and everybody's like, oh, well, Rizzy doing a good job. No, you had the starters back. Derek Carr was back. McCoy was back. The starters were back. But then when you see towards the last couple of games when they went down again, what happened? All of that rah rah was still the same, but you didn't have the players. And that's what I was just trying to explain to people. It wasn't the coach, it was the players.
Let me ask you this from the standpoint of someone who's been in a locker room and been around a lot of different personalities. Now, this is a completely different time from the 90s where we have the social media age and all that good stuff. But Derek Carr has been a big point, obviously, this week since the news on Friday. But one thing that has came up repeatedly from some members of the media and certainly a lot of fans is Carr's lack of being in New Orleans during the Super Bowl, the lack of being in New Orleans now during the voluntary workouts, and then even posting a video of him and his brother doing car reviews this week.
I've heard about that. I didn't know. I heard somebody told me that he was riding around in a Rolls Royce.
It was a very
So,
nice. Just depends. It was a very nice Rolls Royce. I also probably would have filmed myself in that car.
oh,
Um,
so it wasn't his car.
I'm not sure if it was his or David's, but they've started reviewing cars together.
Gotcha. Well, and one thing I'll say is understand this with veterans when it comes to the and what we used to say back in the day was it was voluntary mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
In a
Mm-hmm.
sense of you didn't have to be there, but you better be there. And that's what we say, voluntary mandatory. So,
Yeah.
but voluntary, and veteran guys, I mean, they don't really worry about that. And somebody like Derek, as long as he's been in the league, now I would say he should have been there because it's a new coach, a new system that's going to be put. I'm hoping a new system that's going to be put in. Um, so yeah, he probably should have been there or should be there, but he's looking at it like, look, y'all done already paid me. Um, I can be there or not. It's voluntary. I don't have to be there, so I'll come when I'm supposed to be there. Um, that's how some guys look at it. And as a veteran guy, typically if he's your leader, you would like to see him there. But most other veteran guys, they really don't pay much of attention because they're like, we know typically if it's somebody that's good, it's like we know what he's going to do when the season starts or when the mandatory mini camps come up or whatever, he's going to be here. And so they don't really worry about it too much. But I think that having a new coach, I think that should have been something him and maybe the coach. I don't know if Kim and Kellen Moore had that conversation or not, but I think that's something they should have if he wasn't going to be there because I'm sure Kellen Moore was expecting him to be there if they didn't communicate that.
Well, does that create some riff in a locker room? Again, completely different times from your time playing to now with social media and all that stuff. But does it create a riff in the locker room to see a guy who's supposed to be a leader on the team just be what some people would say very absent from the city for a long stretch of time?
No, not at all. And I think again, it depends on the players because back in the day with us, we would have been like, hey, again, depending on who the player was. If he's your starting quarterback, then you're going to kind of give him, from a mini camp, a voluntary mini camp. I mean, hell, some of the other veterans might not be there. But again, when you're talking about a new coach, then you would like everybody to be there. But again, that should have been communicated. If it wasn't, then that's an issue. But it should have been communicated between him and the head coach. Even some of the team players, hey guys, I'm not going to show up. I got this going on, or I got to take care of my shoulder, what have you. So and the players understand. But when the time you're supposed to be there, and when it counts, that's when what guys will look at as it pertains to the locker room. I mean, like you said, with social media. Some of these guys nowadays, I mean, it's gotten to a point where the younger guy is not really looking up to such and such a player anymore. It's just about who's gonna have that status and who's really doing what on the field compared to what they're doing on social media.
With the news that Derek Carr is most likely going to be out for the year now, do you agree with what I said before about it feels like the Saints are in a position where they're almost forced to select a quarterback, if not in the first round, then certainly by early day two?
I would say yes because again, you signed him or you restructured his contract. And by restructuring his contract, you're basically saying you're going to be here
Hmm.
and we're expecting you to be the starter, even if we do draft somebody. Um, Rattler, I think, couldn't be that next guy up if they don't draft somebody capable in the first round. But when you restructured his contract, the Saints really put a bind on themselves to say he's going to be our guy, and that may not be what Kellen Moore is thinking. But the fact that you got him and paid him, he's got to be there, or he at least has to be. He's supposed to come in and be your starter. Now, if that's not going to be the case, I know at one point they were talking about trading him. I'm like, well, why would you restructure his contract if you're going to trade him? That doesn't make
Hmm.
sense. So you have to assume that they were under the assumption this is going to be our starter, and we'll look for somebody else in the draft as opposed to a quarterback in that first round. Now, like you're saying, if he's going to be out the entire season, you have to find somebody to come in because now you're going to think or assume Rattler's going to be the starter. And even if you bring in a first rounder, excuse me, even if you bring in a first rounder, it's going to be hard for them to really kind of start right off unless they're able to pick up the offense. The question I have, and never like when we talked about the quarterback position and Shador, you got a lot of people has been talking about it, and I made that post because I said, first of all, when it comes to Shador Sanders, he is the best quarterback in the draft. And when you look at what he can do and has done. That's why I don't know where all of this. I think all of this stuff with the scouts and the hating and he can't do this and he can't do that. I think it's just more so to try to get them. to get him to fall to their team later in the rounds as opposed to going somewhere early. Because one of the things I can't understand, and I think Cam Ward is a great athlete, but there's no way in hell I think it would be real stupid of the Tennessee Titans to not draft Shador as the number one pick, especially when you have a coach who was with the Bengals, and to me, Shador is a replica of Joe Burrow when he was coming. I'm not saying now, but when Joe Burrow was coming out of LSU and the things he's doing, how he was able to sit in the pocket and pick everything apart, that's Shador Sanders. The only difference, everybody was like, well, how would Shador have been if he was in the SEC? Well, I think he would have been just like Joe Burrow, depending on what SEC team you put him with, because you can't put him in the SEC with Colorado's team. That's not fair. You see, that's what people are thinking. Oh, we're gonna if he was with Colorado in the SEC. No, Colorado ain't gonna make it in the SEC. But let's put Shador Sanders behind one of those SEC offensive lines. Let's put him with a Jamar Chase, a Jordan Jefferson, and those players like Joe Burrow had. Let's give him those same attributes and players and skill positions with a good offensive line and see what he would have done, because you can't leave him at Colorado and put him in the SEC. That's not fair. If we're gonna compare apples to apples, but what he has done and what he can do, he can make every throw. He's accurate. He does sit in the pocket sometimes and take the sack when he probably should throw it away. That can be taken care of easily. But when you talk about the mentality of the knowledge of the game, Shador is the only one in this draft that can literally come in right now and play just like Joe Burrow did and lead his team to a Super Bowl if he's with the right team. Now with the Saints need too many things to go right, or they still need players. We've already said that. You need an offensive line to protect them. If you don't have the offensive line to protect them and you're not going to rebuild to get those guys, don't bring him in. If you're not going to have the defense and bring in new guys or younger guys or what have you to hold teams, don't bring him in, because what you're now doing is wasting him, and it's not going to benefit you as a team. The next thing is Kellen Moore going to run a pro style offense, which is Shador Sanders needs to be in, or is he going to run and shoot? I mean, the spread option, which is what he won with Philadelphia. So if you're going to run the read option, then Rattler's your guy, not Derek Carr, not Shador Sanders. If you're going to run a pro style offense, Derek Carr is your guy, but if you bring in Shador, you still need an offensive line to protect them. But I see, and I notice on the defensive side, they're bringing in uh, college coaches, DB coaches from college, because what they're doing is they're preparing the defense to have an understanding of how to supposedly stop the read option. They're building their defense to stop the read option, not a pro style offense. So when you're talking about doing a 3-4 defense, Cam Jordan is not made for that.
Right.
Chase Young is not made for that. Now you do have from what I understand, two nose tackles who are 300 plus pounds who would fit what you need for that defense. But I can tell you this: they're gonna catch hell. The Mario Davis and Pete Warner gonna catch hell if those guys can't block up front and protect them. They're gonna really catch hell in the run game, because what happens is you're preparing for a Jaden Daniels and a Jalen Hurst, but you still got a whole bunch of other teams out there that are still running a pro style offense. So you can't play that 3-4 against those teams.
That's a really interesting take defensively. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, we were aware of all the college assistants that they brought in, but I hadn't thought of that angle as the reason why. I was more or less thinking like, Terry Joseph is back in the secondary, and I don't think it's any coincidence. I mean, Terry Joseph comes from Texas. You have a Texas cornerback, Barron, and a Texas safety ranked at the top of the draft. Joseph, before he coached at Texas, he was at Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame has safety Xavier Watts, cornerback Benjamin Morrison in the draft. You mentioned, and I totally agree with you, that the Saints at least need one corner, if not two. Is that one of the other reasons why they're bringing in these college assistants, to get a better feel for the draft? Because this team hasn't necessarily drafted well in the last few years.
Well, they haven't drafted well, but one of the things that I was really surprised about, and I said this the other day, is that the head coaches in the NFL don't, some of them, or a lot of them, don't have input on who's getting drafted.
Mm-hmm.
That's the GM, the scouts, or whomever. I think they may say, okay, these are the guys we're looking for, but they don't have the real input on that's who they want to bring in or that's who they want to draft, which is crazy to me because I got to coach them as a coach. Now you bringing in these younger guys, and again, like I said, I think it's more so for the read option teams as opposed to and having these coaches, because everybody with this read option in college, everybody basically plays the same type of defense,
Mm-hmm.
which is that they like to play that 3-4 type defense, too high safeties, and they're kind of reading off of certain things, certain keys. But you have to have an understanding or have a coach that has an understanding on what they're looking for against that offense, because you're only going to get so many routes coming at you in the read option. You don't have to worry. You don't have, like in a pro style offense, you don't have to cover every route, or they're not going to run every route off of that route tree. You're only getting certain routes. So as a defensive guy, a college coach, they understand that. Again, the problem is going to come when they face a pro style team. Then are you going back to a 4-3? Um, or if they do like Dave Aranda now, I know Aranda when he was at LSU, what he would do is he would show a 3-4 defense, but what he would do is take one of those linebackers, and the linebacker would tell the nose tackle, well, hey, you got the right A gap, I'm gonna take the left A gap, or you take the left A gap and I'm gonna take the right A gap, to where essentially it becomes a 4-3 defense.
Mm-hmm.
But he's showing a 3-4 and he's able to keep the two safeties high.
Hmm.
So it helped out giving that extra guy on the run. But you got to, if they're not going to do that, they're going to catch hell in the run game against a pro style offense.
Talking about the defense, we've talked a lot about quarterbacks the last few weeks, so let's talk about defensive players in this draft. Specifically, some of the guys that the Saints could find themselves looking at 9. I think I know the answer to this question. If Shedeur was on the board, who do the Saints take? So we'll say Shedeur gets, in this scenario, we'll say Shedor's off the board. Some of those guys available at 9, is there a name or two for you, Tyrone, where you're like, this is the guy the Saints should go get in the draft if Shedor's not available?
I don't follow college that much like that to know as far as who's the top players. I only have it was Alabama was my team until Nick Saban left. So I just kind of watched anybody and everybody this year. But I can tell you what they need. And then it's in this order. I would say in the first round, you need to look at quarterback. If the right quarterback isn't there, then you need to look at receiver. If the right receiver isn't there, you need to look at a guard. If the right guard, I'm sorry, defensive tackle. If the defensive tackle isn't there, you need to look at, I'm sorry, let me go back. Wide receiver, guard, corner, defensive tackle, guard. Yeah, go back to guard again. So they have to address the offensive line. You have to address your skill position. You have to address your defensive line, and you got to address corner. So whomever is the best available at that 9 position is what you go get. If it's Shador, And only reason you going to get Shador is because you're going to run a pro style offense. If you're going to run a pro style offense, you're going to go get those guards and guys to protect him. You go get Shador Sanders. If you're not, or if he's gone, the next thing you need to look at is a wide receiver, because that's the most essential thing that you need in that first round.
When you say wide receiver, are
A
you
number one wide receiver.
okay? You basically answered my question. You don't consider Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I've
I'm
called
not.
them both explosive playmakers, but they're missing that big intermediate body, a big bodied intermediate guy. That guy, that Michael Thomas, that Jimmy Graham, that guy that just defenses can't stop. He's gonna move the chains almost every time you target him. The Saints don't have that right now, do they?
I think Chris Olave could be that guy. The problem is he's always hurt, and I think he might be another concussion away from them saying, "Hey, you can't play anymore." With Rashid Shaheed, he's not a great route runner. He's a speed guy. He's gonna take the top off, and he can catch the ball decent, but I don't think he runs great routes, the intermediate routes. So he's your speed guy. We know that. Chris Olave can be your possession receiver. He can be that Michael Thomas, but you don't know if he's going to be able to stay on the field. So you got to go find two more receivers that's going to be out there, and that's going to potentially be a 1A and a 1B.
And before, sorry if I interrupted you, Brendan. I found it interesting that you said defensive tackle, that big-bodied run stuffer, which I fully agree that they need. But you didn't say pass rusher. Do you think that Chase Young, Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, they have enough left on the edge to create disruption for this new 3-4 defense?
No, because again, understand they're going to be, especially if they're in the 3-4, they're not going to get it done because again, it's too much reading that they have to do as opposed to attacking. But I think with pass rushers, I don't know how many of them are going to be, how many good ones you can get out of the draft. I think that's something you can probably find. You may have to go to a veteran guys and get as a free agent. And when I'm saying free agents, I'm talking about 5 to 7 year guys, not 10, 12 year guys.
So not the old guys like us.
Not
We need younger guys like Brendan.
yes. Yes.
I don't know. Like at this point, I've kind of hit that age where it's like, man, if I was an NFL player, like, am I in my prime or am I on the southern slope? I don't know.
Dude, I don't want to hear it.
I know. I gotta make Bob his old jokes every so often. But all right, so Bob tells me that, and we've already heard some of your thoughts on Shador Sanders. If the Saints were to pass on Shador Sanders in the
Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart, I was going to get to that. What is your thoughts on Jackson Dart?
I didn't know. And again, don't follow these guys or whatever. I heard Fletcher Mackel talking about him, so I went and looked at his film. And I can tell you this: the kid has an arm on him, but he is big, and he can run. He kind of reminds me of oh God, the quarterback at Buffalo.
Oh, Allen, yeah.
Josh Allen, yeah. I mean, he is a big kid, and he can run. So he would be fine, I think, for running that read option. He still has a good arm, not as accurate as Shador, but I think he can. That can be learned. That can be taught. But I think if you have to go and get a quarterback, but keep in mind, I still like Spencer Rattler. If they're going to run the read option, I think he's definitely going to be the guy to at least compete for that position.
I don't know how to word this. Basically, I want to tell you if I'm just off my rocker, because I have been telling people, fans, for weeks, feels like months, When I write an article or when I talk about a Shador Sanders or a Jackson Dart or even a Jalen Milrow, I will get responses like, "Oh yeah, I like Shador, but not at number 9. Definitely in the second round." And my response is, yeah, look, if you're Kellen Moore and you think that Shador Sanders, Jackson Dart, whomever, if you think that one of these guys is the guy that you want for your offense, for the offensive system you want to run, why the hell wouldn't you take him at 9 instead of saying, well, I like him for my offense, but I had a second round grade on him. I'm going to play Russian roulette and hope that he's there in the second round. Tyrone Hughes, if you're Kellen Moore and you see that Shadur Sanders is on the board and he's the guy that you want for your offense, wouldn't you grab him at 9?
And that wouldn't even be a question. And for to have Shador Sanders, I would change. I would make sure I run a pro style offense
Mm-hmm.
because I see that's what he can do. He's not a runner. He can run. He's just like Patrick Mahomes. He can extend the plays when he has to. Uh, and get out of the pocket from time to time. But his thing is he wants to deliver the ball. He wants to sit in that pocket. He wants to pick you apart. He wants to read the defense and distribute the ball, get it out of his hands to his playmakers' hands. And so as a coach, you have to make sure that you're going to fit your offense to that kid. You don't try to get that kid to fit your offense. I remember when I was playing and Kansas City Chiefs had just gotten Joe Montana. Kansas City had changed their offense. And I remember Ricky Jackson saying, well, yeah, you don't bring in Joe Montana to run your offense. You bring in Joe
Mm-hmm.
Montana to run his offense. So as an offensive coordinator, I'm not going to try to make a kid do something that I like. I need to know what do you like, and I need to cater to him because I need to make sure he's successful, and by him being successful is going to make me successful. Same thing with Sean Payton and Drew. I mean, that was a perfect marriage. Everybody used to say, Drew Brees was this great quarterback. He was. I say Drew was the executioner, and I don't mean that in a killing way. I meant it in he was able to execute what Sean wanted to do. Sean found a quarterback who could do what he needed, so they went good together. Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, all of these other cats that were up in there couldn't do what Drew did or couldn't run the offense like Drew did. One, because Drew was older, but two, of course, his accuracy and everything. Drew never. Everybody talking about for whatever reason. I don't know where they get it from. Talking about Shador doesn't have a strong arm. I'm like, I
Hmm.
didn't see the kid throw the ball 40, 50, 60 yards down the field. What you want? And how many times do teams go deep in the game anyway? Maybe once or
Right.
twice. I said, so that's really moot. But how many times did Drew Brees throw the ball deep in his career? But he was always in the top 3 quarterbacks in the league at 4,000 or 5,000 yards a year.
I'll ask this: you've been around the team a long time now, obviously as a player, and you've been quite involved with the New Orleans Saints ever since. In your opinion, is there any chance that all of this rumblings surrounding a quarterback, certainly over the last week, um, is any bit of a smokescreen to try to get a team to trade with the Saints? Mickey Loomis has never traded back. And I know we say it every year in the draft that Mickey just does not trade back in the draft because he's never done so. But do you think there's any chance this is a smokescreen and that the Saints could really be targeting somebody or a different position?
I don't think so because I think everything is falling in line for where they are where they're going to be at, and you're going to have either if Shador drops, you're going to have an opportunity to pick him up. If not, you're still going to be able to get a quality position player that you need. So I wouldn't trade out of that spot um, because I mean what you need, like I said, what they're looking at right now, who Cam Ward, the rusher from Penn State, Carter, I think his name,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know who's after. I mean, Travis Hunter. Um, and who's in between them, I don't know. But you're gonna be able to get a quality receiver or a quality cornerback at that position if the quarterback is not there. So I think they're good where they're at.
Hey, Tyrone, you brought him up. I wanted to ask your personal thoughts on Travis Hunter for a specific reason. You're a Hall of Fame kick returner, Hall of Fame cornerback for the New Orleans Saints, but you started your collegiate career as an offensive star for Nebraska. And basically by the end was a two-way player. In fact, you gave us your draft story last time we had you on. Some teams were talking about working you out at wide receiver. You ended up as a cornerback. Well, you have Travis Hunter now coming in, and I don't think anybody thinks he's going to be on the board when the Saints pick at 9. But some scouts are talking cornerback, some scouts are talking receiver. And I saw this report today. I don't know how accurate it is, but I saw this report today that Travis Hunter is saying, well, if a team won't let me play both ways, then I won't play at all. What are your thoughts on that? And based off of whatever you've seen from Travis Hunter, the player, where do you think he fits best position wise?
I think Travis, first of all, him saying that is BS because I'm gonna play one position. I'd rather play one position than no position
Mm-hmm.
and get paid. So that's crazy. But I don't think there's a team out there who's not going to let him play. They're not going to let him play both. I don't think there's a team that's going to let him play both ways as much as he did at Colorado. But I think there are teams who's going to let him play both ways, but he's going to have one position or the other that he's going to be starting
Mm-hmm.
at. And I would like to see him at the receiver position, starting at the receiver position, and then playing sparingly at the corner position in third down packages. And I think that would be great for him because in a third down situation, one, you already know that most likely they're going to be throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry about coming up hitting running backs or what have you in those situations. I think he's going to be pretty good as a receiver. I think he still needs to may need to put on a little bit more weight, but I think he can obviously do it, and he has the conditioning for it. But he's not going to. He's definitely not going to play. I don't. At least to me, I don't see any team that's going to allow him to play both ways as much as he did at Colorado.
No, I could certainly see him being used sparingly on one side of the ball and then very heavy on the other side. I don't know why this name jumped in my mind. Maybe it's because Bob and I are crazy and do these draftathons, and you remember really obscure prospects over the years. But you remember Adoree Jackson from
Yeah.
Southern Cal, and he was one of those guys that not to the volume that Travis Hunter played both sides of the ball, but he was a guy that played both sides of the ball and was a return specialist. And there was a question on, well, how much is he going to end up being used on the offensive side of the ball? And the answer ended up being like 0. I believe Tennessee selected him in the first round or the second round, and he never really got receiver snaps. So, Tyrone, to kind of expand on Bob's question, would you be surprised at all if a team that selects Hunter goes, you are going to play DB or you are going to play receiver, and there is not going to be a crossover whatsoever?
No, I don't think they're gonna not let him do both. But I don't see them again. I don't see them letting him do it as much as he did at Colorado. That wouldn't make sense. Let's say that because now he's getting paid too much money. Um, I think sparingly, situationally would be good. Offensively, I think he probably would have a better impact on the offensive side. And then, like I said, in third down packages, putting him in on the defensive side.
Well, I mean, I would think that the amount of film time on both sides of the ball would be absolutely insane. Because I mean, you're talking about NFL offenses that are so much more intricate than what you'd see at the collegiate level. Different packages that you're going to be used on defense, different packages that you were going to be used on offense. I mean, as a cornerback, and you spend so much time with the special teams as well. But could you imagine fitting any more time into your schedule for even third down or specific situational packages as a receiver, given the amount of time that you had to spend in the defensive backs room?
Exactly. So that would be the reason why I say it would be easier for him to um, do it on the offensive side or play offense, and then have a package for him on the defense side. Because on the coverage side, you know coverages. You know, cover three is cover three, cover one, cover two, whatever. But now what you need to study is that receiver, and that really only matters when it comes to man, and so that's when you need to study that receiver from a cornerback's perspective. But if, depending on the team, how much man are you going to be playing, or how much zone are you going to be playing, I think that's going to determine how much time, how much he's going to need to spend watching film.
My last question for you this evening is going to go back to Derek Carr. In terms of Saints history, and again, you've been around the team for a handful of years now, will the Derek Carr signing go down as the worst signing in the history of the franchise?
Ooh. Now, are we saying as far as quarterback or any position?
Any position.
Um,
Because I think it's got to be in the conversation. Like I can
I
think
would,
of
I would, I would say no, because you may not know this, but the Saints had a lot of guys that they've
Mm,
drafted that didn't work out. In
uh-huh.
fact, I remember my rookie year, my year coming in, they had a first rounder. I can't remember the guy's name. It was Reggie something. He was a first round pick, if I'm not mistaken, first or second round pick, and he didn't pan out. He might have only lasted a year or so. Then they had who was the other guy? Alex Molden. He came in. He played a couple of years with the Saints. He did pretty good, but I don't think he did what they expected him to do. I think with Carr, one, he's a quarterback, so obviously he's going to get the attention, especially nowadays with the money that they're making. But two, because it's the Saints, and that's what they're looking at right now as far as him not being able to produce over the years. So according to them, but like I said, when he has been protected and had a good line in front of him, he's done well. And like I said, he's not a top 10 quarterback, but I don't think he's a bottom 20 quarterback either.
Mm-hmm.
So he's right there in the middle, and that's how he plays. And that's what he's getting paid, right in the middle. So I mean, I think with him, I wouldn't say it's the worst one that they've had. I think it's been bad. But again, you still have to look at the you really have to look at all of the injuries that the Saints have had, and how much that has played a part in them losing.
Bob
Tyrone,
Jarvis
I'm
Bird or Derek Carr. Which
Jarris.
one?
Say that.
The worst. Jarris Bird just pisses. The name Jarris Bird pisses me off to this day. Uh, and I'm with Tyrone. I don't even think Derek Carr is the worst quarterback signing or trade for a deal, the worst quarterback deal in Saints history. Heath Schuler, the Billy Joes,
Oh,
Hobart and Tolliver.
Thomas.
I mean, those guys. I am old enough to remember the horrific Mike Ditka quarterback carousel. Derek Carr.
What about
Derek
Walsh?
Carr's.
Jim Everett.
Yeah, Steve. What? Yeah. Well, yeah. Jim's my boy, man. Jim's my boy, and I think I've said this many times. If you put Jim Everett on those prime Dome Patrol teams, you guys have at least one Super Bowl ring.
Oh, definitely. I think he was.
I,
Yeah, he could have. Because I remember who was that? My second year, that Rams game. That was the first game that he had was playing against the Rams. He had just signed, he just signed with New Orleans, so that was the first game we was playing against him, and that was the first time I started at corner. But all week long, all they kept showing, all we kept watching film on was Flipper Anderson and
Hmm.
how him, and I want to say it might have been 2 years prior, but how him and Flipper Anderson torched the Saints.
Yep.
For those who could probably remember that, but yeah, I mean, he did get it. He didn't do well with us because a lot of times he was under pressure and throwing off his back. We always just say anytime he throwing off the back foot, we'd be like interception, and sure enough, there it was.
So we're not going to have Tyrone Hughes and Jim Everett on together at any point, I don't think. But no, yeah, you said Steve Walsh, and yeah, I mean, the Saints gave up a first round draft choice to get Steve Walsh, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Steve Walsh, Heath Schuler, the Billy Joes. I'm not even sure Derek Carr is in the bottom three of the worst quarterbacks in Saints history. So no, worst free agent deal? No, I don't think so at all. But like you said, Tyrone, because he's a quarterback and because it's the today's day and age that we live in with social media and everybody is an expert, Derek Carr is going to be remembered as a far worse player than what he actually was. And the end. I mean, let's assume that Derek Carr is never going to play as a New Orleans Saint again. The end of this ugly tenure was extremely ugly too, and
Oh yeah,
since it ends on a sour note like that, you're never going to remember the tenure itself fondly at all.
no, and I mean, like I said, it's amazing because everybody was in love with him those first two
Mm-hmm.
games.
Well, instead of asking you a question about Derek Carr, I'm only going to ask you give us a predict, because it doesn't sound like you'll be you got your own draft show with Ken Trahan next Thursday.
Yeah.
So fans, make sure you tune in for that. Folks, we're hoping Tyrone will be able to join us for our draft-a-thon sometime during day 2 or day 3. Tyrone, your family, you're always invited. You come on with us every single
Thank
week
you.
if you want. But since it's unlikely that you're going to be able to join us for first round reactions, give us a prediction. The New Orleans Saints first round draft choice in 2025 will be.
I think it's going to be a cornerback.
Yeah.
Yeah, cornerback or receiver. I mean, that's the only because I don't think Shador is going to. I'm hoping Shador is not going to be there.
And if
Now
you
I
think
will. Well, wait,
go
wait.
ahead.
Let me go back. Let me go back and say this. Let's say, let's say Tennessee um, opens their eyes and say, okay, we're going to take Shador, and let's say Cam Ward is at left at number 9. I would not mind that.
Mm-hmm.
I would not mind because again, if we're looking at the read option, he can do that because you need a running quarterback, but he also has a strong arm. But and it doesn't take when you're doing the read option, it doesn't take a lot of knowledge of the football game. It doesn't take a lot of reading of the defense. So he's perfect for that.
Hmm. I don't mind that option at all.
No,
I
that would
don't
be
mind it.
that would be a good pick right there. But I think it's gonna have I think I'm hoping Shador is not gonna be there. If he is, only if they're gonna run the pro style offense should they pick him. But other than that, if he's not, I would say a cornerback or a receiver.
Okay.
Receiver first.
So you're if Cam and Shador are both off the board, but Jackson Dart is there at 9, you think the Saints go receiver or
Ooh.
cornerback?
Um if Jackson Dart is there, I think you go get him. I think you go get him. Um, because you still need and like I said, I think Rattler can. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
I think Rattler can hold his own in that offense. That's not an issue, but I think he's still going to be a backup.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, Brendan, you got anything to follow up? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying I think he's still going to be a backup.
Well, and typically for a 5th round pick, that's best case scenario. If they can end up being a long-term backup for you. Just reading some of the comments, going back to some of the worst draft picks and whatnot of all time. So I have Reggie Jones. I have.
There we go.
Reggie, y'all didn't like. I thought Reggie played well.
Let's see. Somebody said Ricky Williams. I think Ricky's a tough one because he had a really good career. It just wasn't in New Orleans.
Yeah, but I think Ricky's issue was Dick had just gave up everything for him.
The whole draft.
So, yeah.
That's an issue with that too. Joseph said it was 1989 where Flipper had 15 receptions for yards against New Orleans. And then we'll close out.
Hold on, wait, Brandon, go back and say that again.
Flipper's game against New Orleans, 1989, 15 receptions for over 300 yards. It's still
336. It was a Sunday night game.
That was it, and they torched the Saints.
And Jim has told us multiple times that the coach didn't realize that Flipper had broke an NFL record, so Jim Everett was awarded the game ball, and Jim still has it. So that always cracks me up, to break an NFL record, a record that probably I'll say probably will never get broken. I don't foresee someone receiving for that many yards. You don't even get the game ball. It's kind of like this backhanded slap in the face. Let's close it out with DJ's question here for all of us, and then we'll say farewell for the evening. DJ wants to know if Gentry, the running back from Boise State, is on the board at 9. Should the Saints go that?
Yes. If he is on the board and Shador is not, I would get Gentry before I get Jackson Dart.
Okay. I think that would be a really interesting pairing in the backfield, right? You get that kind of boom and zoom again, and it leaves you some room to maybe get Kendre Miller healthy for like 4 games.
Yeah, right.
but it would, and we've talked about it on the show before, Bob, is if you were to get a guy like that, you are not just helping yourself out in the present, but in the long term as well, because you're able to potentially stretch Alvin Kamara's career an extra year or 2, because he's not going to have to carry the ball nearly as much as he has the last couple of years.
What you could do to help protect Alvin is make Gentry your first and second down back. Now bring Alvin in on 3rd downs only. And if you bring Alvin in on 3rd down only, it's going to be hard to cover him coming out the backfield. Kind of like Reggie Bush.
Heck yeah. And we've said this several times over the last couple of years. It's not that Alvin Kamara can't run between the tackles, but that's not his best attribute. Yeah, he shouldn't.
Because he's not built for that.
No, you're beating the hell out of him for no reason whatsoever.
Exactly.
If you get a Genty, or later on in the draft, Damian Martinez is a kid I love from Miami, or Johnson. I think Caden Johnson, the big back from Iowa, Scadaboo from Arizona State. Some guy that can pick up yardage for you between the tackles. Because if you have that, now all of a sudden you can run Kamara in motion. You can split Alvin out wide or from the slot. And in doing so, it's not telegraphing to the defense what you're going to do, because you still have a banger back there that can that can run through the middle of your defense. So
I said this last year with Taysom Hill. Going into the season, I said they should have made Taysom, because they were talking about not having the backs or whatever. I said they ought to make Taysom, instead of putting him in all of these positions, make Taysom Hill your starting eye back, because Taysom looks for contact, and he's big enough and hard enough to run. He may fumble the ball from time to time, but so those some of the other running backs. But Taysom would have been your banger, and then now you bring Alvin in to be your 3rd down guy.
Yeah, and like you said, that would extend his career. That would give so many other options, and whoever is your quarterback is going to look all the better for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, Tyrone Hughes, you've been a warrior tonight. I know you don't feel well, but thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. A pleasure and a blast to talk to you as always, and I can't wait to do it again.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys. I'm always willing to come on here.
Well, thank you, my friend, and again, fans. For those of you looking for Tyrone Hughes on draft night, look for him and Ken Trahan. Ty, if you have a link, throw it on our page, throw it on the Bayou Blitz page, so we could share it too. And like I said, hopefully you'll have some time to join us on day 2 or day 3.
Yeah, Kenna send it to me, and when he does, I'll send it out to you guys. And like I said, yeah, I'm
Awesome.
gonna try to get over day 2 or 3. I got to do that Crescent City Classic this week.
Hmm.
Not running in it, just handing out water, handing out water, and then we have an event later that night, the first night for the first round.
Oh,
That we
cool.
a Saints event that we're going to be going to. So, like I said, probably the day 2 or day 3, I'll try to get on with you guys.
Can't wait to do it. Get better, get some rest, get some meds in you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See you guys later. Good night.
Yeah, thanks,
Good
Bob.
night. See you soon.
All right, boy.
Great stuff. Not that I would expect anything less, from the great Tyrone Hughes, great football player, great personality, and great person. Again, going back to, the original Go Black and Gold charity fan cruise, him and all the rest of the Saints, Delvin Bro, Pierre Thomas, Mike Lewis, Courtney Roby, they were just beyond fantastic. Tyrone always, at least as much, if not more so than any other former Saints player I know, he still has such a good pulse for the current team. You could tell he really follows, those guys, individuals, and the team, the franchise very closely. And most of these guys do, but he still keeps himself so active, in the team events as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a pleasure to have him on. Get some of his insight from, like I said, one, being in the locker room, but two, just being one of those guys that never really left the community, and never really left being a Saint through and through.
No.
Even when his career took him other places. So really good to catch up, chat, get his insight and his opinions on some things. Bob, I'm going to make the executive decision. We haven't talked about it, so we're just going to do it live. We're going to see a lot of each other next week.
Yes,
So
we are.
No Bayou Blitz on Wednesday.
No.
Since we're going to be going Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I want to spare you guys at home 4 consecutive days of the two of us. So we'll get 3. And remember, day 3 is a little spotty, right? We'll have the live going and ready for us to jump in. But do not expect us to go from 12 noon or 1 o'clock Eastern all the way to 8 o'clock straight, because that would be a nightmare for everybody as well.
I mean, I don't know, man. Right now they got what, a 4th round pick, a fifth. Hold on, I don't remember off the top of my head what they have. They got 2 4th round picks, 2 6th round picks, or a 6th round pick, and 2 7th round picks. Now, I mean, we know that there's always wheeling and dealing on day 3. So there's no way that they end up with with those picks in that order. But if they do, we're liable to be on the majority of that afternoon. I see us, again, unless something changes, I see us taking a break through the 5th round. Unless some trades are made, but I don't know, man. This is shaping up to be a devastating marathon on our emotional well-being.
We've done it before.
We have.
We've done it before. So yeah, we will not see you guys next week, or next Wednesday. That is, we'll see you for a lot of the rest of the week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Bob, in the meantime, as we prepare and they prepare for the draft, we're going to do probably another player profile or two. I think, like I said, at the end of our Jackson Dart review and profile, if you guys haven't checked that out, go to YouTube at Bayou Blitz Pod. Check that out. We need to do some defensive guys.
Yes.
I also think we would not be doing ourselves justice if we didn't cover a position outside of quarterback. So instead of player profiles, it might be better to do maybe just some position profiles and name a couple different guys.
Where we could do one or two of the top guys, one or two mid-round guys, and then maybe a late-round steal or two. I like that.
Yeah, so I will be asking you guys here on the X Twitter which one you want next, and Bob and I will record it sometime this weekend, have it out for you guys. But in the meantime, Bob, you're still writing articles. You're still a busy bee. So where can people follow you in your work?
For now, I'm still writing articles, continuing to put out, at least 2 or 3 draft profiles per day. And make sure you check all those out over at Athlon Sports, where I also cover the Pitt Panthers. I'm sorry, Panthers fans. Pitt's taking a back seat to draft coverage, so bear with me for at least another week or so. And I also post all my articles on my personal social media, which is Bob Rose on Facebook and at Bobby R. 2613 over on the X Twitter. We talked about Bayou Blitz and the Bayou Blitz Facebook page and Twitter page. Continuing to promote Get Checked or Check Out. So make sure that you tune in for those as well. We're going to be working very closely with Shireen and her crew for different monthly awareness issues that we want you guys to be aware of, and also give you a way to donate to the cause. Again, Tyrone talked about it. Brendan and I have been talking about it. It's such a fantastic cause, such a fantastic charity, and we want to help them, but we want to help you help them too. They're a part of our family, as much or more so as any of you. For all of you, we want to, and I feel pretty strongly I can speak for Brendan. We want to extend our love, to Shireen, her folks, all the fans on the cruise, and the entire Get Checked or Check Out association, as well as all you guys, our Bayou Blitz family. I know we're going to have a chance to say our heartfelt thanks again when we're all beat up and weary on day 3 of the draft. But you guys are what makes this fun, and we thank you for it.
Absolutely. Bob, I guess I'll say it for the people who don't know, our draft day marathon, day 3, words are being made up. We're barely making sense when we're talking. It's just a whole lot
more so than usual.
Right. A little bit more than normal. I think over the years, let's see, Bob, you've done a good job over the years of pots of coffee, cigarettes smoked for you over the years, made up words, references to certain players. I had a year where I went heavy on the Eno Benjamin.
You did. You have 5 Eno Benjamin references.
What is that kid up to nowadays? I hope he's doing well, whatever he's doing. So yeah, there's gonna be some counts to have. So it'll be a great time for everyone. You know what you should do? Here's one. You go ahead and write it in your little handy dandy notebook. How many times does Derek Carr come up night 1?
Oh my God.
That's that's a good one right there. How many times does that name come up night 1? From the broadcast, right? Not from necessarily us, whatever broadcast we have on in the background. How many references to Derek Carr does NFL Network ESPN make?
Man, that could be painful, because I know the one year, might have been last year, we were up to, and most of them were mine, 11 Roger Goodell hate references.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I could see that number getting up there again too. So yeah, no, we'll have a grand old time. So again, no show next Wednesday. We'll be with you Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can follow me in the meantime everywhere at BT Boylan. And you can also follow some of my work over at Athlon Sports Saints. I'll have more as the season gets closer in sports betting and all that fun stuff, fantasy football as well. I might have one or two sports bets as we get closer to the draft and those odds kind of lock into where they are. I saw one sports book had Shador the Saints at like minus 120.
The odds are good. The odds are very good.
Yeah, there's not many sports books that still have it as a plus 100 or greater odds. It's a lot of them are right at about 100, 120 and less, which is surprising. Bet on any other position, guys. Make some money. Don't bet on food. But until Thursday, that's Bob Rose. I'm Brendan Boylan. Thanks for hanging out with us and Tyrone Hughes. Tonight, we will see you guys for a long weekend. Until then, find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. See you guys then.